Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of entitled people. In today's episode, entitled tourist gets mad because I didn't care she was American. You're prioritizing a dog over my baby boy. Entitled person bought my house and threatened to not show up to closing if she couldn't move in early. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled tourist gets mad because I didn't care she was American. My dad runs a local tourist group in my town, and on the weekends I usually help out if I'm not doing anything. My job is mainly to interact with customers and answer questions and explain the local rules, and just generally make sure they don't do anything stupid that will upset the locals. I quite like talking to the people while we traveling to a destination. So anyway, last weekend, I went with my dad to help. We stopped at the hostel to pick up our group, and I was helping the people on the bus, and this lady and her family stepped forward and I greeted them, and the lady said we are from the States. The way she announced it, it was like she expected me to clap or get excited, but I just said that's cool and asked her to please get on. She seemed offended but didn't say anything, and when everyone was seated we left. This lady proceeded to brag loudly about America and why it's better than my country, and keep looking at me whenever she made a comment. She was making everyone uncomfortable. I just decided to ignore her and speak to the others. One of her kids apologized for her obnoxious behavior when she was distracted at a site we were at. It's terrible when a kid has to apologize for a grown adult horrible behavior. The rest of the day went good with her occasionally saying something about America, but she went quiet towards the end. I guess she realized I really didn't care. Or maybe it's because the others in the group, including her own family and fellow Americans, were avoiding her and looked embarrassed to be with her. But yeah, that's my entitled story. Side note, not hating on American tourists, most are quite respectful. Loud but respectful. Edit. Guys, I'm getting DM asking if I can be their tour guide in Europe. I'm flattered, but I'm not in Europe. I wouldn't make a good tour guide in a European country since I'll be a tourist myself. LOL, I am in New Zealand. But if you're interested in visiting in Z and in my area, sure, it'd be a pleasure to show around my beautiful country. Wild. I'm an American and I never mention it when I travel. Not only cause it's not a flattering image, but travel 101 is never paint yourself as a tourist. Easy target. My thought process is that most people will usually figure it out once they hear my American accent. I am not loud, you're quiet. Best response from a tour guide I have heard to someone loudly claiming they were from America was, "Oh, should I speak slower then?" As an American myself, this had me rolling. Not aimed at American tourists specifically, but I did a tour in Hoi An, Vietnam a couple of years back. The area we were going to had some old Huey helicopters, and the tour guide explained to us that the American military kindly left them behind when they ran away. There were a few of us that choked back unexpected laughs. So I sometimes wonder if this is a case of Americans not really being traveling type of people. I was told once that Americans rarely leave their state, let alone get a passport. Not sure if that's true or not. However, in Europe, I'm UK-based. Getting a passport and disappearing for a week at 18 is almost a rite of passage. So when Americans leave their country, it's often like they feel they should be appreciated or almost special, as for them it's sort of a big deal. For most countries, it's really not. Maybe that's just my view, as we tend to country hop a lot in Europe, but having been to the US, it feels at times like a bubble. You're prioritizing a dog over my baby boy. I recently flew out of the country for studies with my assistant's dog. In the EU, sometimes you get a free seat for your dog to have their own space in the feet compartment. I got a priority boarding, so when economy started to board, I was already seated, and my dog has already settled down. Cue an entitled parent. Excuse me, is that seat free?
Me, unfortunately no.
EP, but no one is seated there. Can you move the bag so my boy can have it? Me, I was given that seat for my assistant's dog to use. I'm sorry, I cannot give the seat away. EP, unbelievable. You're prioritizing a dog over my baby boy. At this point, a flight attendant checked what was it with the commotion. EP was escorted to their seats. They kept fussing the entire 2-hour flight and complaining how people hate children now. The flight was not overbooked. In a matter of fact, it was not even a full one. The baby boy was about 10 to 12 years old based by look, and from what I saw, the entire family was seated together but didn't have a window seat. Yes, I am. Thanks for understanding. Don't forget to give a big, shit-eating grin as you say it. Too cheap to pay for window seat, so she tried stealing it from a random person on the plane. Yeah. Why do people think their child should be important to anyone else? I really don't get it. Plus, a kid is all energy and flexibility, so they can stand or be slightly uncomfortable for a little while. Or the parent can give up their comfort. But that doesn't happen, does it? So if I am reading this correctly, she was asking for you to give up a seat for her child that wasn't even next to anyone in the child's family? Yes, she wanted the child to sit on a window seat. Why is it so difficult to understand? You sit in the seat on your boarding pass. If you have the opportunity to purchase the seat you want, great. If not, sit in the seat you got. Entitled person bought my house and threatened to not show up to closing if she couldn't move in early. This is a bit of a long story, so I apologize in advance. There's a bit of backstory that is relevant. This story happened several years ago, around 2015. When I married my first husband, we bought a house built in 1960 with its original aluminum shingled roof. This is somewhat relevant later. The roof looked bad but was in good shape as long as you kept the leaves off it. After we got divorced, I kept the house and lived there until I moved in with my now husband. I kept the house empty for a couple years, checking on it regularly, just in case things didn't work out. During that time, I didn't clean the roof off and the leaf buildup caused a leak. This was immediately repaired and convinced me it was time to sell the house. I listed the house for just what I needed to pay off the mortgage and waited. In 3 months' time, I didn't get any serious offers, just investors that lowballed me. My realtor was getting really restless when finally I got an offer that wasn't terrible. We started negotiations. She immediately made it known that she was in the Air Force Reserves and retired from the Army or Marines, I forget which. My parents were in the Air Force, so that isn't something that I care about, and she wasn't getting special treatment from me for it. I'm used to people that use their military experience to get stuff. She was getting a VA loan, and at the time that meant stricter requirements for inspections. She kept trying to get me to lower the price and finally used the roof leak against me. She claimed the roof needed to be replaced and found a roofer willing to back her up on it. It kind of forced my hand, so I agreed to pay half the expected replacement cost, but she didn't want that paid to the roofer. She wanted it paid directly to her. It was clearly an excuse to get the price lowered. It pissed me off, but there wasn't much I could do since I needed to sell this house. We finally agreed and the house was put under contract, closing date set for a month away. The inspection started. After the first one, she asked for a few minor things to be fixed, which I did. Then we had the second inspection for the VA loan. This was about 3 weeks away from closing. I went by the house the day after, and as I pulled into the driveway, I found a package addressed to her in the mailbox, a metal shelf and outdoor swing sitting in the driveway. I'm not happy, but more confused than anything. I then went into the house. The house is a tri-level, with the basement being just 5 steps down from the kitchen. The basement had been redone to be a primary bedroom prior to me buying it, but I only used it as a family/media room. The first thing I noticed was the basement. She had completely rearranged it. There were IKEA wardrobe/closet things she had pulled from the wall and ripped apart. They were screwed together, flipping them around. She had moved a mattress from the upstairs into the basement. The floor was damaged while they moved things around. Furniture was completely rearranged. Then I went upstairs to the bedrooms. I found cans of paint and packages of curtains in all the upstairs rooms. These are not my things and I'm angry. The house isn't hers yet. She shouldn't be leaving things there or rearranging. I called my realtor, who called her realtor, who called her. It was relayed to me that she had dropped some things off outside. There were also bunk beds on the back deck that I hadn't seen yet, but she insisted she was never in the house. It's an obvious lie to cover the trespassing. I then went outside and found a circular burn in the grass, after which I found a burned paint stick inside the house. Now there's vandalism. In an effort to appease me, the buyer agreed to move up the closing date. It was supposed to be within a week. That ended up not happening, and we only closed 3 days early, on Monday instead of Wednesday. Other than the delays, nothing else happens until just before the closing date. On the Friday before, my realtor called me and said the buyer wanted to move in over that weekend instead of waiting for closing because she's military and doesn't get many days off and wouldn't be able to move until that next weekend. Not my problem. I immediately say no, not happening. The realtor called again later saying she's really pushing the military thing. She really wants to move in early. Would I be willing to do a lease agreement? I again say absolutely not. I get another call saying that the buyer has now called anyone and everyone involved with the sale, the loan officers, insurance company, realtor broker, commanding officers, to try to find anyone that can force me to let her move in early. She was now threatening to not show up to closing if I didn't let her move in. I asked what would happen if she didn't show and was told that she would still have to pay the commissions for both realtors, and that since there was a contract I could take her to court and force her to complete the sale. I again said she was not moving in early and told my realtor that she could convey anything of what I was about to say to the buyer. I told her that I didn't press charges for the trespassing and vandalism because of the contract. If she failed to show up to closing, I would not only pursue all my legal rights regarding the contract, but I would also be contacting police about pressing criminal charges. I don't know how much of that was relayed, but I got a call a few minutes later that she would be showing up to the closing, but she wanted to sign her papers in a separate room. The closing went off without a hitch, and I'm glad to be rid of that house. I don't think she ever replaced the roof. Once she had relayed to you that she had never been in the house, you could have disposed of all the stuff she left there. It obviously must have been yours, and you just forgot about it. Can't have been hers as she had never been in your house. As someone whose partner used a VA loan for our house, it's not an excuse to bully the sellers or anyone else. It irritates the hell out of me when people try to use, but me in military, as an excuse to be high and mighty. Glad you stood your ground. Congrats on the sale too. Thank you. Having grown up on a military base, I'm pretty immune to that mentality. At one point, I literally told my realtor to tell her to stop playing the military card because it doesn't work on me. Good for you for standing your ground. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.